Another tool we have in Startup Tools is the Parameter Manager. So in our toolbox, if I select the Parameter Manager, and this will take us in to see our parameters in there. You can see that next to each parameter, we have a spot of either red, green, or yellow. The red spot indicates that that parameter is currently not in the modeling session. The green spot means that it is in the modeling session, and the yellow spot means it is in the model but not designated. So using the tools here, we can quickly fill in the parameters that we require. And in our naming here, for example, we can use the drop-down list and search in there. So if we want to start with an A, we can type A into here, and that's going to narrow our results down for us. And we can just accept our current value for that. Once we're happy with our parameter values, we can save those parameters, clicking on this button here, and we can see that turns all our parameters to green. This has now placed all these parameters into our current modeling session. If we weren't using the Startup Tools Parameter Manager, for example, we would then have to go into the parameters and manually enter all of these parameters into there, including their values manually. Now we have entered our values into the top level assembly, we may actually want to enter the parameters into a subcomponent of that assembly. So we can select our tool here, and we can select our part that we actually want to place those parameters into. We can see here with this part that actually none of the parameters are in the current part that we have selected. So what we can quickly do is, again, just using the tools in here, and we can quickly place in a name in here. So again, using the search tool, we can select the correct bearing name, and just using our drop-down list of our approvers, we can select the correct approver, and again, just put the approval date in there. Again, once we're happy with all our parameter values, we can save those parameters, and they've turned all green, which means we have now added all those parameters into that bearing part there. If we now want to use another component, and this time we'll select the junker part, again, we can see here that hardly any of those values in there are in that current model. This time, instead of actually filling out those parts there, we may want to use the parameters from a different part. So what we can do is we can say get values, and again, we've just filled out the values for the bearing part, so we'll select that part, and we can see that we've taken those parameters from the part we selected and copied and pasted those into our junker part. Once we're happy with those, again, we can click on save, and that will add them to that part also. So when we've entered the parameters into the parts in our assembly, we may want to actually retrieve a drawing of that assembly. So we can click on this icon up here, select our assembly, and we retrieve the drawing of the same name. So it's going to search our libraries or our databases for the drawing that corresponds to the assembly name we have selected. If we just zoom into the table down here, we can see that our parameters that we've entered in the Parameter Manager are then placed into our drawing file. If we bring back our Parameter Manager and we actually make a change to this, so we may need to change the approver from Brian Smith to Craig Roy, and we save those changes, and we can see, as we'd expect, those changes are then pushed through and placed in our drawing borders again and updated. So using the Parameter Manager, we can quickly and efficiently enter and edit the parameters. We have much more control over those parameters, and we can quickly check the parameters that are all in our models, and if they're not in our models, we can quickly add those to our models without manually having to do it and enter those values.